you've got to ski aggressively. You also have to ski the line. You have to know where to set up and to give up a few hundredths of a second to gain it back on a flat. Thorson skis those kinds of downhills well, but he hasn't really done well at Kitzbuhel simply because he seems to like the smoother, aggressive downhills. You see, you missed it there. He was wide coming into the style hang, about 2 to 3 meters off the gate, and immediately, as he would come to the interval time coming out of here, even though he's number 1, that would have cost him some time.
He is the first skier down the Hahnenkamm, so his will be the leading time. Time on the left insignificant in that it belongs to a snow seed skier, someone from the back of the pack, and Thorson has a substantial lead.
He's doing what he has to do. Thorson is known to do well in downhills like Val d'Isère or Val Gardena, where they're technical, you've got to maintain good snow contact, and Kitzbuhel isn't of that ilk. It's rough, it's tough, but this year it's not.
He skied the stripe yesterday in 1:57.42, should be close to that today. In fact, he is 3/10ths faster today, and so already the course runs faster for skier number 1. Jan Einar Thorson has set the early standard. A reborn Austrian, 33-year-old Leonhard Stock comes into this race 4th in the downhill standings.
Leonard's got to overcome his reluctance to go for it, get down into a low tuck. He is always known as a good turner, and you see right there, coming off the mouse volley, very reluctant to get low, and paid the price at the exit. Skidded on the short flat in that sharp left-hand turn, but he'll ski the style hang very well, I'm sure. Up very nice, carving right in, much better turn than Thorson. But he's going to have to really make it up because that bobble just before coming to the style hang would have cost him a lot of time.
He had said he was going to retire at the end of this year, was barely hanging on to a spot in the top seat. Thorson and second of 2 down the hill so far. Yesterday was a magnificent day for the Swiss. They finished 1, 2, 3. Marr was second, but he's already got his place in Kitzbuhel history, having won here 3 years ago.
Now Marr, he's making tiny little mistakes. That's what's been catching him so far this year. Yesterday was one of the most flawless runs he's ever made. Really skied the Hahnenkamm well. You can tell how much he likes this course. He's got a bit of a precarious style, though. Those arms out to the side, it tends to leave greater margin for error, but so far he's skied the upper part very nicely. Out onto the flat into that low tuck position.
Just turned 30 years old, Ken, and again we're looking at a skier who deserves serious medal consideration in the Olympic Games, and he is within reach of the lead at the interval, only 5/100ths back.
Well, that's not good news for Marr because he's 500ths behind Thorson's best time. Thorson finished 8th yesterday, and Marr was second, so he was much faster. Looks like he's having a slightly slower run, possibly this year, in today's race. Very erratic off the bump.
It's going after 1:57.16, wild off that last jump, but he gains time and takes the lead by 2/10ths of a second. 1:56.96. Slower than his time yesterday, but now he'll wait it out at the bottom of the hill to see if anybody can beat it. Lasse Arnesen was a strong 4th yesterday. With that, conquered a few demons, Ken, because it was only a year ago the Hahnenkamm got the better of him. He tore up his knee on the top part of the course.
It was a great story to see him finish 4th yesterday. He was right here. The mouse volley, he had misfortune. He fell into the compression and tore up his knee. He's been slowly recovering, and look at the way he skied. To make that quick of a comeback is truly remarkable because he injured himself partway into the 3rd week of January last year, and already at the beginning of the season he was competitive and skied the style hang beautifully, carved right around, but he skidded a little bit at the exit. Again, that's a convex turn, hard to maintain that edge, and you have to make that commitment, go back to the fence and make a commitment to a blind exit.
Smooth at the top is Arnesen, but he is almost 4/10ths out at the interval. With Skardal out, Arnesen and Thorson are the only 2 Norwegians left in the first seed. They did pick up the slack yesterday.
Let that arm get behind himself. He's low on the traverse. Had to carve across the line, come back up. It means he's not dropping down. He's not letting gravity work for him. Nice off the last jump. Quickly into his tuck before he even landed. That's good aerodynamic for him.
Time on the left belongs to Daniel Marr. Arnesen celebrating his 27th birthday today, but not with the lead. He is 1/3 of a second out and 3rd right now. So with 4 skiers safe in the finish area, it's a Swiss veteran who has the lead. Franz Heinzer will try to conquer the Hahnenkamm for the 2nd time in 24 hours as the Labatt's Blue World Tour continues.
A little bit erratic off the mouse follow, let that ski float up slightly and was wide on that left-hand turn, setting up on the flat. Hufflener is just not sharp this year. Again, wide, coming into the style hang, 2 meters off the gate. It means he's running a wider line, covering more distance, slower. He quickly into his tuck. He looks like he's got some fire in his belly finally. All the real earlier races this year looked like he was floating down the course, being far too subtle. And he's 0.6 of a second ahead of the interval time. That means he is pushing harder today. The Austrians, of course, take their ski racing very seriously, and it would have been a disaster that allowed the Swiss sweep the race yesterday.
Well, he was wide on a turn, you're right, but he has got a big lead. He's won 10 downhills in a 13-year career, and he's come close here with 2 second placings, an 85 and 90. Stripe course ran awfully fast yesterday, quickened by overnight frost. Today it's fast again. It is certainly that for Helmut Hoflander, who has taken the lead by 1/4 of a second. In fact, he skied faster than he did yesterday.
0.6 of a second faster than yesterday. That's a good sign.
And the home country crowd loves it now. Franz Heinzer has already done it twice and consecutively last year and yesterday. To wrestle a win from the Hahnenkamm 3 times in a row, Ken, is the stuff of which legends are made.
What you saw in his start there was trying to get everything out of the start, as much speed as possible. A little wide again on that tough left-hand turn, but look at the way Heinzer skis. He's got those shoulders rolled more over than anyone else. The arms are out there straighter than anyone else. And as he comes across the side hill traverse out of the Steilhang, beautiful carved turn, quickly down into his tuck, seeking out the... Watch Wernsberger as he comes into the Steilhang. He is so hard on his edges. He just is throwing the skis out and then just pounding down, and every time he does that, it costs him time.
And if you look at his run compared to Franz Heinzer's, there really is no comparison. Heinzer said that the win here last year propelled him to the World Championship. Is it possible a win by Heinzer here this year, if he gets it, would propel him to Olympic gold?
There's no doubt about it. This is the high point of the season, to be on form, moving through the classic races. He still has the Lauberhorn to contend with next week, but still, Franz Heinzer is undoubtedly the man to beat.
And Wernsberger, skier number 7, one of 4 Austrians in the first seed today. Stock and Hoflander skied ahead of him. Hoflander currently second to Heinzer. It's Heinzer's time on the left that Wernsberger was chasing, and he was no threat to it. He is 6th right now. Well, Rob Boyd's brief season ended last week at Garmisch, so here's the only North American skier in the top seed, A.J. Kitt of Rochester.
A.J. made a huge mistake yesterday in the Steilhang. He was way off the line. Really cost him a lot of time as he had to carve himself back onto the line, and as he went out onto the flat, time just ticked away. Watch how he's skiing, though. Upper body, quite quiet. He's really learned to use his equipment, and that's important. Much more direct. He was on line this time as he comes through the Steilhang, carving well, and did not skid on the exit.
He's quoted in the U.S. press guide as saying, "I knew I would not be an overnight sensation, but boy, he's been hot this year." 15th yesterday. In years past, he'd been happy with that, but not this year. 9/10 out at the interval. That's not too far back. Throw out Heinzer's time, and it's about the 3rd best to this point.
No question about it. Coming across the side hill. He's quickly into his tuck. That's good. Look at that. Holding his tuck all the way across the side hill traverse. Quickly down, holding his tuck almost all the way down the Zilschuss. That is good, and good aerodynamic position coming off the final bump.
It's the undisputed leader of the American team, the real hope for a medal for them, and Val d'Isère, and he skied 1:58.14 yesterday, faster than that today, and A.J. Kitt is 2nd.
Almost improved by 2 seconds. That shows you how big that error was that he made yesterday in the Steilhang.
Picked up half a second on the bottom of the hill, so 8 have skied, and Heinzer has staked another claim to victory, followed by A.J. Kitt of the U.S. The Labatt's Blue World Tour will continue from Kitzbuhel, Austria, in just a moment. We'll see if Franz Heinzer can hold on to the lead when we come back. First, if his time stands up, he'll have established himself as one of skiing's greats. And here is the future of the Swiss team, Ken. Xavier Gigondet, skier number 9, had a career finish here yesterday.
Definitely finishing in the top 3, and that is the kind of thing the Swiss need to build on their future. Much smoother as he went off of the Mouse Folly. He had a long, long flight yesterday, but look how wide. He was really wide in that tough left-hand turn. He's had to cut off the 180-degree roundabout, setting up into the Steilhang. He's lied there again. Those are little mistakes that a newcomer to the first C would make, maybe because the course is so much smoother than what he's experienced. And you saw coming out of the exit, he almost skied up onto the slip skirt. He would have had to skid and cost him a little bit of time, so we'll see at the interval time he's probably fallen a bit behind, although not bad considering the magnitude of that error.
Well, he's a second back, and that's just about where A.J. Kitt was, and Kitt was able to turn that into a good finish.
No question. What he has to do is get into a tuck, but he has to carve back across the line. He almost had missed the gate right in the middle of the traverse, so he was not in anywhere near the aerodynamic form that Kitt had.
The Swiss were 1, 2, 3 yesterday, had 4 of the top 5. Gigondet was on the podium for the first time in his career, and today he was chasing 156.04, 0.6 of a second back. Remember, A.J. Kitt gained time on the bottom of the course. Gigondet did a bit, but not enough, and he's third. Well, skier number 10 is the last of the Austrians in the top seed, Patrick Ortlieb.
And there'd be one person certainly that would be looking to see him redeem Austria's honor. Tony Seiler, who the Austrian skiing great, Olympic champion, is the chief of race here. This is his baby. He loves to see the Hahnenkamm run here, and he's the man responsible for the organization of the hill all the time. And Ortlieb has some redeeming to do, because after doing so well in Garmisch, he was only 10th yesterday, being very conservative, setting way up on these turns. But this is one of the tactics of Kitzbuhel. You have to be careful. He may be a little slower on top, and that's where he was slow during the week and yesterday, but he was able to
Exact at the bottom of the course, and he is third right now, ahead of Xavier Gigondet. Heinzer still leading, and A.J. Kitt is second. We've made the point the Swiss team has some great skiers. Their speedster is Willie Bess. He got them a 5th placing yesterday.
There's no question that these two, Bess and Gigondet, are now the future of the Swiss team, because Maurer and Heinzer aren't youngsters anymore. A lot of skiers going wide on that turn. It's just that it's such a quick transition. You've got to go straight through the compression and then make that turn, and it's tough. You see him setting up, coming through the Stahlhang. He was 4th here.
Won the World Championship in Vail in '88, but was missing in action after that.
Terrible Stahlhang there, much too direct as he came in, skidded on the exit. He'll pay the price on the flats.
We'll see how much of a price on the interval time, and this time suggests that Hans-Jörg Tausser may be missing in action once again. Over 3 seconds back. It's impossible to make that up.
There's no way. He's obviously done something else there too, because normally an error like that would only cost a second, maybe 2. He's almost 3.5 seconds off the pace. What he may be doing, in fact, is just skiing the course for a little bit more experience, keeping in mind that they only have 3, maybe 4 training runs. So every single time you get to race this hill, it's something you file away in your inventory. If it came off the Mossfall, he let his skis drop down below him. Nice and solid, but he's waiting. He was waiting for the turn. He's a little too wide on the roundhouse. Setting up for the Stahlhang. They have to go way up high and drop down. Good turn, but he needed to get back to the fence more there. He didn't carve back to the left far enough. And as a result, he's probably going to skid a little bit wide, not too bad, as he comes out the exit of the Stahlhang. It's tough.
He was just flat out too slow today. Heinzer's time was in no danger from Gadina, who was a 2.5 back. At Garmisch, Marcus Vossmeyer ended a 5-year drought, skiing with a 38th start, but today he's got the luxury of being in the 1st seed.
And that's a luxury indeed, because the course is much smoother, a little bit rough on the top going off the Mossfall. Again, it's timing, but this is where Vossmeyer is good. He knows how to carve these turns. He was very fast in yesterday's race up here. He was slow on the bottom. Look how close he was in on the Stahlhang. Beautiful timing. That's Vossmeyer's Super G excellence in his GS training. We know he was world champion back in 1985, but he has dropped the technical disciplines.
Skied so poorly last season, his 8th in the World Cup, that he seriously considered quitting the sport, but then he caught fire last week, was in the top 15 here yesterday. He's over a second back at the interval.
The difference is on the top, it's all turns. On the lower part, as you can see there, they really plummet. You don't have much in the way of turns. You've got to be able to handle varied terrain, but much more of in a downhill style of handling the variation and looking for aerodynamics, and that's not what Vossmeyer is good at.
Heinzer's time on the left. Vossmeyer skier number 14, so it's the 7th challenge to Heinzer's time, because he skied number 7 and it survived it. Vossmeyer, though, is in the top 10 right now. Hans Hetner took a spill at Garmisch last week. He was the only one who fell and was unhurt, and he's got the 15th start today.
Hetner, what a difference a year can make. This time last year, he'd come off a second at Garmisch. He was on a roll. This year, he's like a completely different skier. He is not skiing well. He's erratic. Watch how his arms flail around. He looks awkward. He's sticking his rear off into one side. Doesn't seem to be carving his skis. Slipped way wide coming into the Steilhang. Again, see the way that arm flails back? You've got to be carving, pushing that pressure down on the downhill ski. He is just not skiing well.
Vossmeyer and Tauscher have already skied for Germany. Vossmeyer just skied. He's 8th right now. Zehetner, though, needn't worry about the top 10 with that time.
And you compare him to the way Heinzer skis. Heinzer, who's smooth, who's calm, who's aggressive, driving both arms forward, and Zehetner is letting one arm drop back. He loses that clean edge contact, the skis bounce around, and every time that happens, he drops a few more hundredths of a second.
He was hot to start last season, as you mentioned, with 4 top 8 finishes. Didn't manage a single one this season. In fact, couldn't finish the race at Garmisch, and he's well back of Franz Heinzer's time, so Heinzer is closer to confirming victory at Kitzbuhel. Günther Matter is a Super G specialist who may be thinking about skiing downhill more seriously after he was a strong 7th here yesterday.
That was his best downhill result to date. He's always been a pretty solid downhiller, but he's concentrated on giant slalom in particular, but he's a winner in slalom, a winner in giant slalom, and in Super G. But he keeps this up. He may qualify for the Austrian downhill team. The Austrians, normally such a power in downhill, have really suffered. And he was wide coming into the Steilhang, but again, solid, especially when you compare him to Zehetner, who just came down, but skidded at the exit, lost his edge just in that last little bit of the side hill.
Should not be unhappy with 7th.
This ski season, you can be seen supporting
Kitzbuhel. No Canadians have skied yet. Podovinsky and Belchuk will in a moment. Peter Rehak can of Austria, skier number 20. That's where he finished yesterday.
He's the future of the Austrian program, 21-year-old. Solid. Barry, way back off of the Mausfalle. Let those skis go out, and he's stopping. That could be a bad sign. Yeah, he's very light on one leg. As you see him setting up here for the Mausfalle, when he pressed it, the skis went out from underneath. He was sitting back, and that's the classic anterior cruciate ligament injury position, and it certainly looks like that as they prepare to put him on
a toboggan. Bottom of the hill, you're right. He may have suffered a knee injury without even falling. Kitzbuhel usually claims a fair number of skiers. Yesterday, only 1 of 53 did not finish. Today, all finished until Rehak pulled up lame. In the finish area, they're most likely now getting ready to toast Franz Heinzer for the 2nd straight day. It will be an upset of major proportions if anyone can take this race from him now. First Canadian down the Hahnenkamm is Edmonton's Eddie Podovinsky. He's shown marked improvement in his last 2 races.
Good aggressive start there. Again, the visibility having gone a little bit flatter than for the earlier racers. Much smoother, but he could have got down into his tuck again there. Those were little pieces of experience. We pick him up at the interval time, and we'll see. Now much further off the pace than yesterday. He was within a second and a half at the interval time coming into the Zielschus. So he's not skiing as clean a run. A little bit of a skid, and look how low he is. He's just, he really had to put on the binders to get this car back up to make the gate, and that's where the seconds just tick away, so he'd be much, much slower in the Zielschus.
Yes, that was a big mistake. He had to slow down to make the gate. Undoubtedly will cost him lots of time. Top 15, not likely, and in fact, he is 21st, over 3 seconds back.
You can see the disappointment on his face. He knows he made a big mistake there.
Last week, Felix Belchuk started at number 60. That's how far he'd fallen. The 35th start, I should say, is still well back, but it's a big improvement.
Well, 16th is building blocks to try to get back to the top. We'll see at the interval time. And he's within a second and a half. That's a little slower than he was yesterday.
But it's within striking distance of the top 15.
If he can ski the lower part well, he may be able to move even into the top 10. He's
been all sorts of speculation as to what caused him to go into that 2-season slump. Some speculation about a boot change, but he stood by the new brand. He lost a touch more time on the bottom and is 16th. Still, though, an improvement, and he is headed in the right direction. Banff's Kerry Mullen is skier number 43 today. He is, I should say, this is Roman Torn. I thought we were going to see Kerry Mullen, but here's Roman Torn in the starting gate and heading down the strife course.
You see, Roman really has been struggling. No doubt about it. He has not been able to put a good result behind him. Wasn't in a tuck there. wide stance. He needs to be looking more for aerodynamic form, putting his ski out, not carving a turn 3 seconds behind at the interval time. And really, he's not supple. He's letting out, when he hits all the ripples and rolls, which are tough, they start to get holes, and sitting back, coming on the jump into those heel shoes, you see the roughness, and he's letting that transmit right through his entire body rather than being back a little bit more and absorbing it through his knees, acting like an accordion.
1:56.04, the time to beat belongs to Franz Heinzer. Was never in any danger in that challenge from Roman Thorn. Well, last week the French lost Luc Alphon, their leading downhill hope, when he crashed at Garmisch. So now, Ken, they're going to have to rely on skiers from the back of the pack like Duvillard.
No question about it, and Duvillard did quite well considering how his high start position yesterday, finished 18th. He's the son of one of the great former French ski racers. And on the lower part, even though the course is rough, it's chewed up, look at that, 1.6 seconds out, and he is searching for speed. Look at how he's got those arms forward. He's trying to get down into his tuck, searching for the extra little hundredths, and he is attacking the course, even though he started.
Will not come close to Franz Heinzer's time, but he breaks the top 10, only a second back, and that's a marked improvement for him. He's delighted, and well, he should be.
0.6 of a second he picked up on the lower part, skied that bottom aggressively, and made up piles of time.
Well, you had an advance warning of Kerry Mullen skiing a few moments ago when I mistakenly identified Roman Thorn as him, but here he is, skier number 43, and he has shown big improvement in his last few races, if we can see him somewhere in the fog.
Definitely has, and he had a good training run this week, but was very disappointed with his 37th finish yesterday. But coming down in the lower part, we really can't make much comment about his form.
But that is Kerry Mullen on the course, and look at that, only a second and a half back, finishes 17th. That's outstanding, given he had the 43rd start, and he'll be the top Canadian on the day. But the toast of Kitzbuhel for the second straight year is Franz Heinzer. He earns legend for the top 15. Swiss had 4 there, the Austrians 5. Last week's winner at Garmisch, Vossmeyer, 10th today. A young man from Banff, Kerry Mullen, is going to recall this as his best finish to this point in his career, 18th today. And Felix Belchuk still improving after a prolonged slump that may just be over in time. We'll wrap up the...
Sullivan.